All right, hi everyone. My name is John Cho. I am the Vice President of Marketing at Klaytn Foundation. If you're not familiar with Klaytn, we're a Layer 1 blockchain that was originally founded back in 2019 by the Kakao Corporation. And if you're not familiar with the Kakao Corporation is the entity responsible for the Kakao Talk super app. Basically, I think we have like a 95% share of the messenger market in South Korea, also a significant share of the messenger market in Southeast Asia as well. Today, I just wanted to speak to you, not necessarily about like a specific product or a new feature we're releasing. I just wanted to speak on something a little bit more pragmatic, a little bit more practical. And so instead of discussing the latest project, just wanted to maybe share a few experiences that we have, insights, or even a case study, if you will, that we have in relation to this topic, achieving sustainability through value creation. So a couple of months back, we announced a mid to long-term strategy focused on real-world assets, digital ownership with a focus on Web3 gaming, and aggressive expansion, on-the-ground expansion in the Asian region, specifically Southeast Asia. So this has been a tremendous pivot, I guess, in terms of mid to long-term strategy for us, because this is, I think, we feel is representative of the current trends and upcoming trends, both from a macro perspective and from an industry perspective as well. So I won't be talking about RWAs or anything today, again, because I'm sure today and tomorrow other people will be doing that for me. But again, just wanted to speak about something a little bit more practical, because sustainability is something that we're all concerned about, right? And there are a lot of attempts in terms of achieving sustainability, be it tokenomics, be it buybacks, be it creating a new feature that the community has been asking for. But ultimately, and this is I'm not going to use specifically the P word, the dirty word, price, but I think we're at a point in time where we understand that value accrual for your native token is a key performance indicator. Token value has become I guess, if you will, an indicator of a healthy ecosystem. But there are a lot of bottlenecks from a foundation and from a project perspective to actually directly address that, be it like regulatory risks, be it narrative risks. Because back in 2017, 2018, I think everyone had that mentality where if you build it, they will come. But we're definitely not there anymore. I think the landscape has changed and evolved a lot. And a key aspect, again, to bringing in new users, new builders to your ecosystem is going to be that tangible value creation aspect. So I just wanted to put the kind of key message up first and foremost at the beginning of the presentation, which is that one entity cannot create or establish value accrual aspects to an ecosystem. It has to be a holistic, collaborative approach. So what we announced back in during Korea Blockchain Week and announcing again today is that the Klaytn Foundation will work together with ecosystem contributors and participants to facilitate value creation for, specifically, our utility token. And how are we going to do this? Well, so I think, again, going back to my earlier point, I think we're all in agreement. We create the latest and best features, but the thing is, no matter the real-world developments, no matter the amount of growth, there's because the crypto industry itself, besides the traditional financial legacy, I don't think there's any other end-user-oriented industry where we're so highly affected by external market conditions, right? So again, besides all the building we're doing, because of market influences, maintaining that, achieving that sustainability is really difficult. Now, this is your typical quote-unquote Web3 virtuous cycle. This is pretty much representative of every token economy out there, be it a layer 1, layer 2, or a project. So you have your participators, you have your contributors, and then making all that drive and move and work is your incentives. But the thing is, with incentives, and we saw this in P2E games, right? We saw this in, I don't want to name any specific projects or protocols, but we saw how that P2E aspect wasn't sustainable because ultimately that value accrual aspect for the specific P2E token was not maintainable, was not sustainable. So value accruing incentives are vital for this to work, but then how do you, again, maintain value accrual? How do you facilitate value accrual? Now, taking a step back, looking at your typical kind of token economy, so this is your typical kind of utility token overview. So you have your demand side for the utility token, which is normally the gas fee. And then you have supply, which is the incentive mechanism. So for your validators, for your contributors, and so on. Now, what does a sustainable token economy look like? And this is probably a model that everybody agrees to. It's your kind of like standard deflationary approach. So from a demand perspective, if there's more demand than supply, that's a good thing, right? And from a scarcity perspective, if there's more tokens being burned than minted, that's also a good thing. So this is your typical kind of like ideal scenario for a token economy. But how do you achieve this? Once scarcity goes up, once demand goes up, value goes up, of course. And once that value does go up, that becomes the motivation layer for all your ecosystem participants. This is the case, regardless whether a project has its own token or not. Ultimately, as long as if the native layer 1 or layer 2 utility token does not continue accruing value, that affects the entire ecosystem. So creating value for the native token becomes that motivation layer for participants, be it the governance players, dApps, infrastructure builders, and so on and so forth. So, like I said, this value accrual, this was up until now, providing you some context on how we approached this issue. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this isn't something a single entity can achieve. We're the foundation for the Klaytn layer 1 blockchain, but the value creation isn't something that we could do ourselves. So it's a holistic challenge. This is a quick kind of like snapshot of where we are in terms of the Klay tokens. So approximately there are around 550,000 new Klay tokens being minted via block rewards, and also 276,000 Klay tokens being entering the ecosystem as incentives for validators. In terms of gas usage, only around 5,700 Klay tokens are being burnt through gas usage, and it's not because we don't have the transactions. On average, I think we're around 400 to 500 transactions a day, which makes us a really competitive and active blockchain. But despite that, regardless, the gas fees being burned are still only 1% of the new daily block rewards. So how do we achieve a deflationary token economy in this kind of environment, in this kind of landscape? I mean, there's so much you can do. You can reduce block rewards, but what happens when you reduce block rewards? That affects the incentives that validators have, because it's expensive running a node, right? And it also affects the APY for stakers. So there's a limitation as to what you can do from a protocol level to achieve deflationary token economics. So this is your kind of typical Web3 economy. You have your core team, and in most cases, your core team will be using your token treasury as resources to maintain the chain, to develop, to build, and so on and so forth. And then you have your protocols and projects been building on top of your layer. And normally that's actually funded by the ecosystem grant. So all of this is based on a token economy, right? So, and then, hopefully your businesses will continue, the businesses, the protocols, the projects on the chain will continue growing. And with that growth, they will, see revenue streams. And as they see more revenue streams, that means more users are being onboarded. With more users being onboarded, that's more transactions, and that is contributing to the daily burn of Klay via gas fees. But at the end of the day, what does this actually do for the native token in terms of value accrual? To be honest, not much. Not much. But you can see all these project teams that are seeing success because of your chain and because of your native token holders and because of the end users that were onboarded because of that layer 1 or layer 2. So ultimately, what we would like to see is an evolution of that typical Web3 virtuous cycle where protocols and projects not only just build on top of your layer 1, layer 2, but they actually contribute to the value creation around the native token by sharing their revenue streams. So recently we've seen chains like Phantom and other chains exploring the distribution of gas to project teams as a form of as an incentive. But this is actually the opposite, right? So instead of sharing and distributing a portion of the gas fees as an incentive to project teams, what we're asking project teams to do is to actually leverage a portion of the revenue to contribute to the burning of our native token. And why do this? Well, we need an interest alignment. We need an alignment around incentives in order to motivate our projects to actually contribute and participate in this. So there are various ways that Klay, the token, our native token, can be used as utility. So from a DeFi perspective, you have your staking. From our RWA tokenization initiatives, you have your transaction fees and so on and so forth. But again, going back, the reason why we want our projects to kind of contribute to this initiative is there's so much you can do at a protocol level. Sure, we could introduce a hard cap maximum supply, have a periodic halving mechanism built in and so on. But again, there's a limit to this. So the reason why we're asking Klaytn projects to participate by using a portion of the revenues to contribute to the value accrual of the Klay token is in order for the Klaytn ecosystem to really thrive and to achieve sustainability, we need to be able to secure that value accrual for the native token. And this is something that not many people like discussing, and it's very rare you'll see a foundation or a core team discuss token value. But ultimately, I think we're in a position where we understand, going back to my earlier point, that token value is now become a key performance indicator of a healthy ecosystem. So we've been able to speak with a lot of projects on Klaytn. And I can tell you, we've launched back in 2019, and we've seen a lot of projects that have found great success, a lot of success thanks to the Klaytn chain and its economy. And so we actually went around and spoke to a lot of these projects. So this is some of the conversations that we've had with some of our projects. For example, we have the Oracle network, which is a native Oracle protocol on Klaytn. And what they've agreed to do is to burn 50% of their fees that are earned via the Oracle protocol. And these fees are, of course, via the Klay token. And KlaySwap, which has been consistently one of the top DeFi protocols in the space overall, so consistently in the top 10, according to DeFi Llama, in terms of on-chain trading volume, also TVL, they have agreed to use a portion of the transaction fees to actually help burn Klay. And Superwalk, so one of probably the most premier, prominent M2E protocols out there. They have a combined user base of over 100,000 users. They will be using also a portion of the revenues to help burn Klay and to achieve that value accrual model for the Klay native token. And of course, we have a naming service, a domain service. They'll be using a portion of their fees to also burn Klay as well. So why are they doing this again? Well, first and foremost, it's good PR. It's a great narrative for the Klaytn holders, the holders of the Klay token and so on. So what we're going to be doing is we'll be working to actually create a public dashboard that displays the projects that have contributed most to the value accrual of the Klay token. And the thing is, of course, there's a lot of things that that needs to be done in terms of aligning incentives for projects. So Besides, this kind of public dashboard where, Clay token holders will be able to kind of identify projects that really help contribute to the ecosystem, we'll also be making sure that we work with the top contributors to provide what they really need. So I'm assuming you guys understand a lot of the projects these days aren't necessarily, asking for more grants. They're not necessarily asking for, tweet supports. What they are asking for is a user acquisition support. So what we're really good at, because we do come from a legacy Web 2 background, what we're really good at is acquiring users for projects. That's our bread and butter. So that's how we're going to be helping projects who contribute to our ecosystem. We'll be helping them acquire users. And more practical stuff. So for example, during Token and Korea Blockchain Week, we were able to help our projects secure, I think it was 50 media interviews. That's the kind of pragmatic support that project teams are after. I mean, sure, you could give them like a $100,000 grant, but then, how are they going to start, acquiring users? Because a lot of the time they're limited in terms of their understanding of growth initiatives and activities. So I'm going to wrap up my presentation here. I've gone a little over time, but again, the key takeaway is that, value accrual initiatives and activations for your native token is important. It has become a key performance indicator, but that's something that can't be done alone. You can't rely on a single entity or a foundation to create a landscape where facilitation around value creation is happening. It has to be a collaborative effort. And we're really happy to announce that Klaytn partners and Klaytn projects have agreed to participate in this initiative. So I think I'll end up my talk there. If you have any questions, come find me at our booth. And otherwise, thank you for listening.